Howdy, it's me, NKS, Jonas Schmeckleboy, your favorite Minecraft Survivor host and player. Today, I am going to be doing uh, a podcast episode because Vision wanted me to do one. By wanted me, I mean he said he would listen to it, which is all I need. I wanted to do the Schmecklies again this time of year. However, that plan kind of fell through and life caught up with me, so I did not end up doing it. I also wanted to host around now, but I'm not sure if I will be able to. So I'm going to postpone that for a bit. And instead, I'm going to be talking about my game philosophy. Now, I have a lot of different things that I could be talking about and that I want to talk about in the future. But a little bit of a story time before we begin. I won my first game of 2024 2 days ago. Panda hosted on Sunday. It's a 20-person game, which is one of my favorite formats. I like 20-person two-tribe seasons. You don't get them too much anymore. And Survivor sort of moved away from that. Like real life Survivor obviously moved towards 3 tribes, which means I miss 2 tribes a lot, so it was fun to play. But yeah, after being screwed and really screwed in a lot of games this year, particularly in Final Tribal Councils, I managed to win a game that was much closer than I liked and believe I deserved. But I did manage to win, so I was very proud of myself. And I realized in that moment that over the 5 years of me playing these games, I haven't really. I've shown people my game philosophy and my game in general and how I like to think about and play the game, but I haven't really articulated any of it. And I was sitting at FTC and people assumed a lot of things about my game that I just like kind of take for granted about how wrong they are. And I feel like I want to start a conversation about what it is that we think about games and how possibly or likely wrong we are about how other people play the game and about how ourselves we play the game. Because I was sitting there and I wasn't really being asked questions that I thought were important. I was being asked questions that I feel like people already knew the answer to and just wanted to hear it from my mouth. I wasn't asked a single thing about my strategic portion of the game or any moves I had made. People just automatically said that, oh, you didn't have a strategic or social game, which I think is just clearly one, wrong, and two, pointless because, of course, you can't make the end of the game without having any strategy or any social portion. That's not how Survivor works, especially not how I work. And so I am recording this. I made a little um, outline. We all know how much I can ramble, especially after 13 hours of sleep following a day of eating edibles at a water park, which I did yesterday, which was a lot of fun. That was me celebrating the win. Mazel tov to me. Happy Hanukkah. But yeah, I have an outline trying to keep me on track. Hopefully, no more random tangents about getting high at a water park. And I've split this up into 10 sections. Look at me, how organized. And I hope within these 10 sections, I get to teach you, or at least show you how I like to play the game, how I like to think about the game, and sort of the. I hope that I can identify some potential biases in your own game philosophy, as well as how better to course correct in order to think about the game from a more, in my opinion, enlightened perspective. The first section I have here is the fact that your goal should be, in my opinion, to win the game. The goal of Survivor is to win the game. And you don't have to share this goal, but in my opinion, there is no point in arguing over something if you are not on the same playing field. And this goes for all arguments. There's no point in arguing about politics if both people aren't going to change their minds no matter what. And likewise, I don't think it's important arguing with people that don't share your mindset in terms of what they want out of a game. For instance, there's some people that only play Minecraft games because they have no friends and they want to make friends. And I, at one point in time, could not understand that because I had friends. So why would I need to dedicate my entire online persona to get more friends? And as I've gotten older, I realized that some people have a harder time in real life than others. And so I'm never going to judge people based on what they want to do with their time. Some people want to play games just to troll, which at a certain level I can understand that. However, I believe there are games for that, and competitive lobbies should be kept competitive. And that's exactly what I am, competitive. So my goal is to win the game. And when your goal is to win the game, any competitive kosher option can and should be used. And I use the term kosher to describe things that aren't blatantly complete bullshit, such as X-raying, cheating, or even some technically allowed but like bullshit strategies of just loading up a game with 13 of your friends and dedicating the game to somebody and say, oh yeah, we're all going to throw to X. Oh yeah, we're all going to do that, which people don't really do anymore, which I'm glad about. Some people do it on a lower level where they load up with their friends and they know who really cares, and then if they get to the end of the game, they're going to be giving it to that person, which I'm not a fan of, which is why I don't consider it a kosher option. But everything else is fair game, in my opinion. Certain things at a time are going to be more popular. And by that I mean in a given metagame, that's the word we use to describe it. Certain strategies, certain ways of playing, and certain philosophies are going to be seen as standard. There's going to be a standard way to play, a meta way to play, and there's going to be a substandard or an off standard or an off meta way to play the game. And I think that this metagame clearly changes over times. And I believe there are certain ones that are better than others. I believe there are ones that are more fun than others. And I believe that individual people can and do change the metagame, which many people I feel like don't appreciate. But we are standing, on the shoulders of giants. At least for me particularly, I don't think I could have ever started playing games the way I do and having the success that I did if I wasn't building off of the success of people that came before me, such as Gara and Xsync. Xsync, I believe, is sort of the biggest meta game changer because he was doing a lot of the shit that I was doing, a year before I was doing it and continuing to do it as I showed up. And before that, we go back even further to people like Vision and even somebody like Slinger. I mean, Slinger, a lot of his wins came from the people he was with, but Slinger was also a very revolutionary player. And a lot of the big movers and shakers of the game, are still around today. They don't play as much as they used to, but, we take for granted the way that somebody like Pepit or Double or Anton changed the game. Somebody like Red. Even people that we don't see as, like, amazing players, like, Derp Oak changed the way the game works, which I think is interesting. And even people that we see as good players, but not necessarily as fantastic players. I think people like Sam K and Decode changed the metagame in very, very clear and obvious and noteworthy ways. And I really like that a lot because it shows a tenacity to do what you want to do. And that is core to my game philosophy, while keeping, of course, the goal, that being to win the game. And the next section I have is going over the quote-unquote 3 aspects of Survivor. The outwit, outplay, outlast, the social, strategic, and physical sections of the game. And I have seen these in a million different permutations and arguments for how they work, as well as things that go into more than 3 or less than 3 aspects. I know Aries Pink has his macro and micro ways of looking at the game, which are interesting. I think they are stupid and bullshit, but they are at least interesting, which is why I respect them. for me personally, I believe that it is not useful to look at the game in terms of 3 aspects compared to looking at them in terms of 4 aspects, because I believe there is a significant difference between 2. And we've seen this in the way people look at the challenge. They say that there's a social, strategic, physical, and political style of game. I think that the argument for what determines a political game is a little not there. So mine is not that, and I will go over what they are. The first section of the game, of course, is social, and I define this as how effective you are at communicating and communication as a whole. A lot of people sort of misconstrue social game as just how much people like you, or how much people listen to you, or how much people are willing to vote for you, which it's definitely not. And I believe that that is not truly what social gameplay is, because you can win games without people all loving you. You can win games against people that are adored, but haven't been able to effectively communicate how their game works. If you have a good social game, you are able to talk to people and get across to them effectively. It doesn't mean they have to believe you. It's just that you have to be able to change attitudes and influence decisions. And this can be to benefit or to hinder. I believe there is an important aspect of social game that is making people fearful or hesitant to uh, interact with you. I feel like if you are able to make people scared of you, even though it means they might not want to vote with you, there is a level of intrigue and usefulness that comes from people being scared of you. Not really scared, but hesitant, penitent, knowing that you mean business. That is all social gameplay, and I feel like those aren't really appreciated by most people that just think, "Oh, I'm a social player. I'm just gonna hang out and talk to people. I'm gonna win the game because everybody loves me." That is not how you win the game with social gameplay, and I think that a lot of the best social players of the community will agree with me. The next aspect, of course, is the physical aspect, and this is how effective you are at winning challenges. Of course, both tribe challenges and individual immunities. And this one's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like this is the only one that everybody kind of agrees on. People might not agree on the effectiveness of physical gameplay. They might not agree of uh, the intricacies of it, which I will go into, and I hope to convince you. And I think that it's one of the more simple on paper, but complex in understanding and complex in utility and utilizing how it works of anything in the game. But probably of the 4, in my opinion, aspects of the game, the physical gameplay is the most nuanced in how you interact with it in the game, which a lot of people wouldn't agree with, but I hope that I can convince people throughout the course of this too. The next 2 aspects of the game, I have split strategy into tactics and strategy. And a lot of people will have this sort of in their own mind, but not have a good way of visualizing it or explaining it. And this is my attempt at doing that. So, in my opinion, tactics are how effective you are at controlling individual votes or strategic moves that are within a round. It is a short-term strategy, effectively. If you are good at tactics, you are good at the round to round. How am I going to get the votes? How am I going to do what I want to do? How am I going to convince people that this is the best option for their game? While a strategy is how effective you are at controlling your position and win equity over the course of the entire game. So this isn't just the round to round, how am I going to get by? How am I going to get by? How am I going to vote X person out? How am I not going to get voted off? It's how you are at making sure that you can win the game. And this can be through many, many things, but the general blanket plan of action, that is your strategy. And between these 4 aspects, the social, the physical, the tactical, and the strategic, everybody, I think, is going to have their own opinions on what they think is fun and what they like doing the best and what they think is the best according to what they can do. But I believe it is objective in the fact that there is one aspect that is the most important to the game of Survivor and how you play it, if you are going to be competitive, and that is the strategic portion of the game. I believe that you can uh, have a lacking or in some cases, a complete inability to do other sections of the game. I believe that you can win with being bad at challenges. You can win with having very, very poor tactical skills. It's very, very hard to win if everybody hates you and you can't communicate properly. But people can win, especially in terms of communicating properly. People can win while muted. Panda used to win games when he was muted. So he was literally handicapping his social game by not being as effective in communication, and he still managed to win games. I think that you cannot reliably win a game without having a decent strategic head on your mind. If you just fumble through games, not thinking about anything, it is very, very, very hard to win a game. And even if you are thinking about the other aspects, even if you are thinking about your social game, your tactical ability, and your physical ability, if you do not have a strategy to win the game, it is very, very, very hard to do so. Sun Tzu, the author of The Art of War, said, "Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is noise before defeat." Thank you, Google. I think this holds very, very true for Survivor in the sense that if individual rounds don't always go your way, individual tactics don't always succeed, as long as you have the bigger picture in mind and you are able to uh, position yourself in the game such that you have a chance to win, that will always be better than maneuvering round by round, trying to get the best of people round after round after round, and hoping that you make it to the end. You can have tactical victory after tactical victory, yada, 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 yada. But if you don't keep your win condition in mind, you are not going to win the game. Even if people say, oh, I'm a social player, the social part of Survivor is the most important, they know deep inside that if they did not have a head on their shoulders, if they were just running with whatever they wanted to do in a round and not giving a shit about the next, they would not do particularly well. Even if you don't do a lot of tactics, even if you sort of do like to just sit on your ass and hope that people like you, you have a plan for how you're going to pitch that to the jury. And that is a strategy. So it is very, very hard to have zero strategy. The same way it's very, very hard to have zero social game. Well, I've been waffling for 20 minutes and I haven't even gotten to the meat and potatoes of my game philosophy. So, in order to break up some of the monotony of me talking to myself into the microphone, I'm going to provide you with 3 scenarios. And these are going to be, I believe, very, very general blanket things that you could expect to find in a game. And I have proposed 3 potential scenarios for each, 3 potential options for you to choose. And I want you to evaluate them and choose which one you believe is the best in each given scenario. The first one, you start the game on a tribe of 6. You notice 3 people on your tribe know each other very well, and you expect that they are in an alliance. What should you do? Should you A, try and make social bonds with those 3 to integrate yourself into the alliance? Should you B, make those 3 trust you enough to split votes 2 to 2 to 2, but then you backstab one of them and a 3 to 2 to 1 in order for you to take control? Or should you 3, excuse me. Or should you C, make yourself the most useful to that group and try and ride it out until a swap or a merge? The second scenario is you make the merge and hear your name being spread around. What should you do? Should you A, socially connect with enough people so that they want to keep you and vote somebody else out? Should you B, form a counter alliance against the people you know are voting you and try and gather more numbers? Or should you C, convince people that you are not the best possible target here and try and adjust their crosshairs away from your head and onto another. 3. You make the end game, in my opinion, the final 6, and you believe there are 2 large jury threats left in the game that you cannot beat. What do you do? Should you A, socially distance yourself from those 2 so that you won't be associated with them and can slip through the cracks at Final 4? Should you B, align with them to vote out one other person, potentially doing this in a 3 to 2 to 1, and then take them out, Final 5 and Final 4? Or should you C, pose yourself as the least threatening to the bottom 2 players and make a Final 3 alliance with them? I do have answers that I believe are correct for each of these scenarios, but I will go over them in a second after I touch on the fourth aspect of my philosophy: control versus luck. As humans, we have a bias towards assuming everything that we are doing is in control, and we have a bias towards assuming everything we don't have control over is purely luck. For instance, you believe that everything that you do well on, let's say it's a test or it's a job, or in Survivor, let's say it's a conversation. Everything that you think goes well, you believe it's because you controlled it to do well. And we have a bias towards everything else. For instance, if something goes wrong, somebody else plays a correct idol, somebody else wins a challenge, somebody else convinces people to go after you. We have a bias saying that that is luck. We're like, oh, we got unlucky that so and so did this, so and so did that. Even though, from their perspective, the other person's, they controlled it. We have a bias in our own minds thinking that their control is, in fact, bad luck for us. And this is called attribution bias. It's one of the many biases in psychology, and it's a very, very real thing. And in Survivor, you need to be able to know your biases and adjust your decisions according to those biases in order to be accurate. Now that we know our biases, let's reconsider the 3 scenarios that I just spoke about. And I hope that the enlightened among you realize that all 3 of these are, in fact, trick questions. And the correct answer is D, win the immunity challenge. And I know that a lot of you are rolling your eyes right about now. However, I believe I can prove in each of these scenarios that that is the correct option. To start with the first scenario, all of these options that you have viability towards them. And to be honest, you probably should do a couple of these. I think that the tactical option B, might be a little too early in the game to make such a decision. But if this is what you need to do to make the merge, it's what you need to do to make the merge. And you should be doing everything you can do. Um, but the simplest option, which would get you further in the game without having to do any of these, is to win the tribe immunity challenge. And I know that you're going to be thinking, well, that's bullshit. You just gave me 3 options and it said that we were going to tribal. I never said we were going to tribal. I said you start the game on a tribe of 6. What should you do on a tribe of 6? Win immunity so you can stay a tribe of 6. If you win immunity, you can't go home. Simple as. For the second one, you make the merge and hear your name being spread around. What should you do? Win immunity. It's really not that hard. I didn't say it was after the challenge. I just said that you made the merge and your name is being spread around. What are you going to do? Well, if you win immunity, it doesn't matter that your name's spread around. All 3 of these are decently valid options, and you should do these. I believe each of these 3 things you should do, but you should win immunity so that you don't have to do any of these 3 things. You should probably do them as well as winning immunity, but there's one way to guarantee that you are safe, and that's win the damn challenge. And third, for this one, it's a little bit interesting because you kind of have to do these things along with winning immunity. Winning immunity just makes them a hell of a lot easier, especially some of these things like the potential 3-2-1 vote. It's way easier to be able to do that if you are coming from a spot where they can't vote you out. As well as when you are in the end game, winning immunity not only ensures your safety, but it means that other people can't win immunity. So many people don't realize that the strength in winning challenges also comes from the fact that other people aren't immune. So many times in Survivor, you can make it past a vote as long as this person isn't immune. But if that person wins a challenge, then you're shit out of luck. And so, winning immunity is definitely the correct option here, as well as doing one of these three. In particular, I think option B is quite good. And you've noticed throughout these three, I have given option A is usually a social answer, option B is typically a tactical answer, and option C is typically a strategic answer. And one thing that you tend to notice is that these have different levels of passiveness. Particularly option B, the tactical answer, is very, very active. It's more about how am I going to get votes? How am I going to make an alliance? How am I going to take people out one by one by one? Option A is typically the most passive, where all you are doing is talking to different people and talking to the people you believe you should be talking with and hoping that you can change attitudes. And option C is typically in the middle. In some cases, it's active. For instance, make yourself the most useful to the first group. That's an active decision you can do. Pose yourself as the least threatening to the bottom two players and make a final three with them. That's something active you can do. But it's not nearly as active as direct tactical warfare. And I believe that helps to distinguish the two with pure examples from earlier that I've given. But of course, the cheese answer for all of these, in my opinion, is to win immunity. And why is that? Why is that the best option most times in the game? Well, the reason is that survivor gameplay is inherently out of your control. And what do I mean by that? In some games, such as chess, everything in the game is in your control. You can control your pieces, and while you can't control your opponent's pieces, you can control how you respond to your opponent's pieces. So you are able to do everything in your power to give yourself the win. In other games, such as Survivor, you can only give an input and react to the output. Survivor is a game that is not a function. You cannot give the same input in and expect the same output twice. There are always going to be slight differences. Now, typically, that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing twice and expecting different outcomes. But I think that you kind of have to be a little insane to be good at Survivor. And I feel like the unpredictability of Survivor is what makes it an interesting game. You cannot control outputs, you can only control inputs and hope that that gives you a desirable output. And in some ways, making sure that most outputs are desirable is the best way to play the game. For the different aspects of the game, in my opinion, social gameplay doesn't allow you to control decisions. It only allows you to control attitudes. No matter how much we can say, oh, I controlled somebody to do this, I controlled the game here, I did this, you are not voting as the other people. The other people are the ones that are writing down the name in the book and then throwing it in the hopper. You cannot do that. You can influence their attitudes by making it so that they are more likely to listen to you and you can communicate effectively that they should be doing what you want them to do. However, you are not inherently in control of their decisions. And since you are not in control of them, you could say that that requires a certain amount of luck. And a lot of people aren't going to want to agree with that, but I think it's true. Even if you are doing everything perfectly, you are being a good social player, you have to get lucky that the other people are going to agree and absorb and have their attitudes changed enough so that they do listen to you. And typically in a smart lobby, people know when they are agreeing with everything you say. Even if they do agree with everything you say, And even if they do want to keep you in the game, they know this and they are able to adjust their decisions, therefore making it so that the further you get in the game, the more uh, socially you are maneuvering through the game, the more people realize that, which makes it kind of a double-edged sword. When you're using tactical gameplay, you are attempting to directly control a vote. And this requires the luck that people will actually go through and do the damn plan. Even if the plan is smart, even if the plan makes sense, even if the plan is necessary, since you are not in control of the other people in the game, it requires luck that they will do it. And sometimes this luck is greater than others. I think that if you know how people operate, if you know how the people in the game operate, you can make very reliable predictions with what they will do. But very reliable is not 100% reliable, and this means that there is an element of luck in the game. Strategic gameplay is long-term planning, and any long-term plan should be resistant to luck. However, you still do need to have enough luck so that the plan doesn't screw itself over. Any individual element of chance, such as who has an idol, who has an advantage, even something like a random spur of emotions. If some person gets emotional and outbursts at you and you can't get that back on your side, how are you going to win the game? Everybody else in the game could potentially have a brain, and that will fuck up your plans if you do not account for that. And so, even though when you are planning your strategy, you should expect for things to go wrong. If things go wrong enough, there's not really a lot you can do, which means that you need to have a certain amount of luck in order to control your own game strategically. And this is not a bad thing. This is just the way that Survivor works. You cannot control everything. It would not be fun if you could control everything. The enjoyment, in my opinion, in Survivor comes from the fact that you can control yourself, you can influence others, but you cannot control others. And you have to sort of operate as if you can in order for you to get anything done, but you also have to operate as if you can't in order to uh, think about how to get yourself to the end of the game. And there's a lot of nuance that comes with that. You'll notice that the one aspect of the game I didn't mention are challenges and how they involve control versus luck. And I believe that this is one of the biggest things that is integral to my philosophy in the game and that other people don't agree with. So I'm going to try and be especially persuasive here. One of the things that pisses me off every single time I win a game, and it really is every single time, even with people that have never seen me play before, in the case of just the other day, and going back, years and years and years, every time I win, there's always at least one person that says, "How did you let him win? How did you let him win?" And I want you to analyze that sentence and think about it in the sense of control. Nobody ever asks me, "Wow, Jonas, good work. How did you do this? How did you win? How did you win these challenges? How did you survive these votes? How did you think about the game socially, strategically, and tactically?" Nobody asks me that. But what they do ask is the other people in the game, "How did you fuck up so that NKS could win?" They are giving the control of the game away from me, away from the things I did as the challenge beast, and towards the other people in the game, saying that I effectively am a byproduct of the lack of control that they had. And this pisses me off because a lot of people think that all I give a shit about is winning challenges, which is not true. I care about controlling my game. And so when I see that and people think that when I win games based off of the lack of control in others and not the control that I had over my game, it pisses me off. This goes for most games and their top players, in my opinion. For Pokemon, which I'm a big fan of, a lot of the best tournament players, at least in singles, and probably in doubles too, although I'm not as familiar with doubles, singles tournament players aren't going to load up strategies that require a lot of luck. They're not going to do matchup fishing. They're not going to run a lot of inaccurate moves. The best Pokemon player of all time is a guy called ABR. And he's known for hating inaccurate moves, hating uh, things that you have to rely on chance for. And people like him rather, are going to make strategies and develop ways of playing that minimize luck and rely more on the player's own ability. And I think that there is a false assumption that winning challenges is largely luck. When anybody says, "Oh, he got lucky that he won 6, 7, 8 challenges," that always sort of makes me very, very not like mad, but it's kind of sort of childish naivete to think that what I'm doing, what I work very, very hard to do, and a skill that I have accumulated, I got lucky to get this skill, and it wasn't a conscientious decision to develop this skill. I think like, imagine doing that for something else. Imagine going up to Jimi Hendrix when he was alive and saying, "Wow, you're lucky that you're really good at guitar." It's like, imagine going up to Messi and be like, "Wow, you're really lucky that you're good at soccer." It's like, dude, like, what the fuck? It's clearly not. Um, but uh, I think that most people have this false assumption because they see uh, that on an even playing field, challenges should be evenly spread. They think that if everybody is relatively similar to each other, you should expect a relative similarity amount of challenges. And a lot of people don't realize just how non-even the playing field is. Um, that they realize that that is completely, completely bonkers. Even in terms of other people that are good, I've heard some crazy, crazy things. I remember one time there was a Lizzie season that back when Lizzie used to host that Lizzie asked me to advertise, and then I advertised this season, and then she didn't put me on, which is always a big pet peeve of mine because it feels like people taking advantage of you. But I remember hearing from people on her production team that she said, "Yeah, I don't want to cast NKS. We already have Light on the season, and he's pretty good at challenges too, probably as good as NKS. So I don't think we need another challenge beast." And I was just hearing that, and no offense to Light, Light's pretty good. The difference between the average player, and let me ego for a bit. Let me ego for a bit because it's true. The difference between Light and the average player is half the distance. The difference between Light and me, and as well as a couple of the other really, really good challenge competitors. It is not a linear progression going from uh, a bad player to an average player to a good player. It is exponential. The better you get at challenges, the exponential difference you get in terms of your capability to win a challenge. There are very, very good physical players. For instance, in the game I just played, I played it with BA. I played with Tony, who isn't known for being particularly good at challenges, but he has played a lot of Minecraft and he can win challenges. And as well, there was Scrub and Aaron, who are both very, very good. Aaron, in particular, is a very storied physical player. He's very, very respected. And he's gone on some crazy runs. And I've played games with, several of the top challenge competitors at a time. And uh, I'm still able to win against them. Probably maybe not the vast majority, but definitely the majority of the times. In this game, this weekend, I won 8 of the 10 merge immunities, and one of those that I didn't win was an auction. So of the 9 actual challenges, and by the way, I hate auction. I can go into that. I'm not going to go into that, but I could go into that. I hate them so much. Um, but of the 9 actual challenges, I won 8 of them against good players. So challenges are clearly more skill based than people want to attribute them. But since they believe that winning challenges is luck based, a lot of people see winning more challenges as relying more and more on luck, getting more lucky. And this to me is just bonkers uh, because people can look at let's say two hypothetical players. One person doesn't win any challenges in the game, then becomes a big threat, and then wins 3 challenges to the end of the game. People often are going to say that that person played better than somebody that just won 8 fucking challenges the entire season and didn't have to go to tribal. And didn't have to go to tribal without immunity, that is. And that to me is just bonkers. You can know nothing about their games. You cannot have seen the way the season goes. And just by looking on a spreadsheet, you look at the person that won less challenges and assume that they played better. Like, it's complete fucking bonkers. And I think the reason this uh, sort of fallacy infects a lot of people in the community, even the people that are kind of good at challenges, they just don't realize how better they are than other people. And I think that I have sufficient data to prove this because a couple of years ago, I put out a community survey where others would grade themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. At the time, I only did 3 aspects: strategic, social, and physical. And for strategic and social, the mean was definitely higher in terms of what people expected them to be, and the median. A lot of people said that they were around the 7, 8, even 9 scale on social and strategic, and 6 people were being a little bit modest. The modest answer was 6 out of 10. That was people being like, "Oh, I'm not too good. I'm only a 6 out of 10. Yeah, I'm only above average." When everybody says they're above average, the average is not where they think it is. um, and that to me was very, very interesting because there's people that uh, it's always fun to see the humble people, like good players that are easily 10 out of 10 on these aspects go like, "Oh, I'm only like a 7 or an 8." And people that are fucking dumbasses say like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm like a 7 or an 8." Like, you have no idea how stupid you fucking are. Um, but for the physical aspect, it was much more balanced with a lot of people saying, "Oh yeah, I'm shit at challenges. I'm shit at challenges," but they don't care. And I think the reason they don't care is because they don't see challenges as being personal. They think that, oh, if I'm bad socially, then I'm an asshole, or people don't like me, or if I'm bad strategically, it means I'm stupid. And even though at times they might mean that, people don't like to admit that to themselves, and a lot of people are more welcome to admit that they might not be good at challenges because they think, oh, all I'm admitting to is that I go outside, which is very funny. But I think that this has repercussions in the sense that since people are more willing to admit that challenges are not in their control, going back to before, they have the attribution bias. So they think since it's not in my control, since I'm not in control of winning challenges, and since I can't win challenges, everybody that does win challenge is all luck. And this brings me to my next point about my philosophy, that is perception, and that people experience the game of Survivor from a limited POV. Sure, we watch Survivor from an external perspective, and we watch recorded Survivors from an external perspective, as well as probably knowing some of the people playing. But we experience the game while we are playing the game from our own POV, not looking at necessarily what other people are doing. And that means a lot of times people will perceive strategic and tactical moves completely devoid of luck because you can't see the luck. For instance, let's say a strategic move only works out because one person in a random VC happened to get a stray message, uh, you know, 10 seconds before they were about to leave the VC, that makes it so that they stay and formulate a new plan. And that's the plan that ends up happening. People aren't going to see, wow, they got lucky that they didn't leave the call 10 seconds quicker, or they're lucky that they got that message now instead of, 20 seconds before tribal when they couldn't change anything. People aren't going to see that because they can't see that. And so they don't see the luck involved. Um, and in my opinion, they see them devoid of luck because you can't see the luck. Meanwhile, people will perceive challenge wins devoid of control because you can't see the control. I feel like if people were watching me play the game in real life compared to other people, they would be able to see exactly the lengths that I go to and the speed and precision that is required in order to do the things that I do and other people do. um, better than if they just saw me play the game from an outside perspective, especially during challenges. Because when you're doing the challenge, you're not looking at other people. You hear the host say, "Oh, so and so is moving ahead, so and so is doing this," but you can't experience that, and you're not going to be staring over at me while you're doing the challenge, so you don't see exactly what I'm doing. And this leads me to something that I think is really, really interesting. Most time, not all the time, but the people that are more likely to appreciate challenge wins are people that are more likely to win challenges. And this is because of a couple of reasons. But the biggest one is that attribution bias, things that aren't in your own control are not control based, they are luck based. That kind of goes away because they know what you are doing and they know how impressive it is what you're doing and they know just how much you are controlling your game. I remember I had to talk with Aaron after the last game, and he said that while in some ways he was jealous that I won so many challenges, he respected the fact that I won the challenges because he knows what it's like to do that, which I think is really, really sort of yeah, it shows a lot of sort of self actualization and knowing what you respect and knowing why and knowing your biases, which is sort of integral to being a good player. So shout out to my boy Aaron. Um, but I think a lot of times the people that give me the biggest shit for winning challenges are people that have never won a challenge in their life. And I think it's quite funny. It's like um being mad at like somebody on MasterChef. You know that meme that's like, "Oh, how could they overcook the sea bass? You're so stupid. You're the worst home cook in America." And then they go and eat their pizza rolls. There's a Pro ZD video about that that I thought was quite funny. That's what it's like to be good at challenges and to hear people shitting on your game that are completely ass. It's like, at least know what you're talking about before you're gonna talk shit, you know? The other players in Survivor are often the things that we don't think about because we're so self-involved with how we think about the game. But uh, when you're playing the game, you should not expect to steamroll the game. As long as you are playing with competent people that have brains that want to win the game and are competitive in winning the game, uh, you will not be allowed to completely body the competition. There will always be counterplay to you, and you will always have counterplay to that. No matter how good you are doing, there are always going to be things that other people can do to get you out, and there are always ways that you can save yourself from getting out. The more resistant you are to counterplay, and the better counterplay you have, the better your game is. And this is integral to my philosophy. Of all the aspects of the game, the physical aspect, the challenges, are the most resistant to counterplay because if you are that much better than everybody else, the other people have very little counterplay. Even creative strategies, Tony mentioned this, where you just ignore the person that is winning the challenges. You just make your plans and just try and keep them in the dark, yada, yada, yada. There is counterplay to that, and that's the fact that you are a vote in Survivor. And people will go looking for your vote. And as long as you market that your vote is necessary, people will bite and they will include you in their plans. And so, even creative strategies, there are ways around. There is always counterplay in the game. Um, and in my opinion, challenges are the most resistant counterplay, and it is also one of the hardest things in order to achieve the ability that you need to make this work. And this is because challenges do not equal Minecraft skill. In terms of individual Minecraft skills, I don't think I'm the best at anything besides maybe shulker parkour. In terms of raw parkour, not only am I not the best in this community, I'm not nearly the best in this community, as well as, people I know in real life. I went to high school with two people that are some of the best parkour players in the world, legitimately. And they're younger than me too. They're a year younger. They're better than me, and this pisses me off because I spent so long being good at the game, but I'm just worse than them. At PvP, I'm not particularly special. I'm like a decent lineman in Minecraft football, so that means I'm okay at sumo. But there's many people that are better than me in sumo, and that means they're usually gonna be better than me at PvP. I'm not too good with a bow, I'm not too good with an axe. I was a UHC player for a while, but I was never a particularly good UHC player. I can probably count the games I've won on one hand. I am not the best at Minecraft challenges because I am the best at Minecraft. I'm the best at Minecraft challenges because I'm the best at challenges. And challenges require a different skill set, one that requires willpower, endurance, mental fortitude, teamwork, leadership for the tribe challenges, which definitely matter in terms of physical game. I'm the best at challenges because I know how challenges work and I know the things that you need to do to win and I know what to focus on and how to think about challenges. And this is really, really hard. And the reason why you don't see a lot of people that play like I do, you see some, you see Double, you see Xsync, you see Gara, people that are able to win a lot of challenges. The reason you don't see that is because it's hard because you can't just be good at Minecraft. You have to be smart about how good you are at Minecraft. You have to organize the way that you think about the game and the way you play the game. And you have to not fuck up. Any little thing you could do, especially if it's something like an endurance challenge, any little thing you can do to fuck up could be your entire day wasted. You know, there were a couple endurance challenges in Panda's game the other day. If I had a slip of the mind that took one moment, one misinput, I lost the fucking game. Think about that. That is the level of skill you need to have in order to achieve the challenge strength that you need in order to be resistant to counterplay. And I believe that this is what I appreciate about physical gameplay. I don't show up to FTC and say, hey, look, I want a bunch of challenges, vote me. And the reason I don't do this is because the challenges themselves aren't what I am advertising. I am advertising my resistance to counterplay. I'm advertising the fact that I am able to play how I want to play. I'm not going to apologize for that. And I'm going to work my way to the end of the game, bulldozing head first, like a bull in a china shop, trying to get myself to the end of the game, no matter what, using any counterplay I can, and not going home, no matter what odds are against me. That is what I am advertising. And that is why I make the moves that I do. And I think that this is a fun way of looking at the game because making moves are fun. I think it is a competitive way of looking at the game because it provides a good competitive way to challenge other people in terms of how can I have better counterplay than you? And I can go into a million examples of this. But I feel like a lot of the best players, they might not know that they agree with this, but I think that the way that they play the game exemplifies this. They are trying to find counterplay to other people's counterplay to other people's counterplay to so on and so on. You know, I think in real Survivor, Parvati, this is what makes Parvati so good. And the final thing I want to talk about, according to my philosophy, is how to play Survivor. And this isn't like a step by step guide. This is just the sort of mindset I think about whenever I play the game and whenever I make decisions. And this is just the core to my overall mindset. This is, if I had to summarize what makes me the player I am, this is it. Survivor is a game about adapting to your changing environment. You, as a player, are going through a game that will change states several times, potentially several times around, but typically once every round. And there is going to be a balance of control and luck. At certain times, you're going to be in control, and sometimes you are going to be in a storm of bad or uh, non optimal luck, and you are going to need to weather that storm. Every opportunity you have to take control could be a setback in getting bad luck, and every setback and bad luck you get could be an opportunity to take control. You can win any game of Survivor that you play most of the time. If you're going up against, a strategy of 20 people that all hate you and all agree to get you out, might be hard to win that game. But I kind of don't understand why this is like controversial and why this is like some people think it's cringe. Aries in particular says that this is the quote unquote blue pill way of playing the game. saying that, "Oh, you can win the game. It's bad. Take the red pill. You can't win some games. You have to social." All that bullshit. Like, don't you want to be optimistic, saying that you can win the game? It's boggles my fucking mind. Um, but it's true. You can win any game. I have won a lot of games I shouldn't have probably won. I wasn't supposed to win, and I have almost won a lot more games that I definitely shouldn't have won. Even if I'm playing with my ops, I've rolled up to the ops game and fucking got second place before. In Survivor, you should utilize your strengths, no matter what you consider the best. I consider strategic gameplay to be the best. I think that positioning, what you do round to round to guarantee your safety, is always going to be worse than overall game plan, your win equity. And I think this is exemplified with how I treat each round in terms of whether it goes my way or not. And this, of course, goes into the more tactical portion, but I suit my tactics according to my strategy. I don't rely on tactics going right to automatically be what wins me or loses me the game. And sometimes people think that this is bad, in the sense that there are going to be times when I vote in the minority, and I either know I'm voting in the minority or I intentionally vote in the minority. And people get really confused because they think, oh, you want to vote in the majority because that shows you have control. Voting in the majority does not show you have control. All it shows is that you're able to listen to the guy that does have control. Um, and I think that there is a certain level of bravery that you need in order to do what you think is the best option, no matter what. And let's say a round goes awry and an ally of mine gets taken out because a tactic I had didn't work. This is not the end of my strategy. In fact, it could be good to my strategy because an ally on the jury is typically a good thing. And so uh, I am forming my tactics around my strategy, not the other way around. These aspects of the game should enable other aspects, not hinder them, which is important. I don't do things that my physical aspects would hinder. I don't expect for everybody to listen to me every single round and do what I want them to do because they're not going to do that. Because I'm winning all these fucking challenges. It's not like I walk into a game and expect everything to go my way on a silver platter. I may act like it because, and sometimes that makes people more willing to work with you, and that's a separate conversation. But I expect that things will go wrong, because I'm winning challenges and I don't make my plans around nothing going wrong. And this also means that you should be able to use your weaknesses as a player as a strength. If you are not good at challenges, you should be advertising that I am shit. I am dog shit at challenges. Vote me off at Final Four. I can never make it past Final Four. Because, one, a lot of times that's true. But sometimes that is the opportunity you need to go further in the game. And all you need to do is grab somebody else that's a bigger threat, take them to Final Four with you, and you can make it past Final Four. That is how some of our best players in Survivor win their games. You can do this for all aspects of the game. If you are stupid, you can advertise that you are stupid and make it so that people underestimate you. If you are bad socially, not necessarily bad socially in terms of how much people uh, like you, because it's kind of hard to win the game if everybody hates you. But in terms of people not listening to you, if people don't listen to you, you can leverage that. Sometimes I tell people exactly what they need to do to win the game, and they assume I'm lying to them, and so they do the opposite, and then they throw their own games. It's mind-boggling the things that you can do if you know your own perception, you know your weaknesses, and you know your strength. And being bad at certain aspects of the game isn't always the worst thing you can be doing, because the worst thing you can be doing in Survivor is not giving a shit. For a couple of reasons. One, it's not competitive, and two, it makes your people in the game you're playing with feel bad, because if you're not giving a shit, then it makes them feel bad if they do give a shit, and it makes, more importantly, in my opinion, the host feel bad, because if the host is hosting for a bunch of people that don't give a shit, they're not going to give a shit about their own challenges and their own hosting and their own casts, and they're not going to try as hard to host. They're not going to have fun hosting. Soon enough, they're not going to host, and nobody's going to play, and everyone's going to be miserable because nobody gives a shit about anything. I don't really have this as its own part. This is just my sort of closing arguments for why my philosophy is good. And I understand that I've been rambling for a lot. I'm going to try and cut this down to sizable chunks. But I hope that what you got out of this can be summarized in that my philosophy is good because it allows for creativity and playstyle creation. I think you've noticed throughout this that I'm not telling you specific things you need to do to win the game. I'm giving you realizations and lessons to how to think about the game so that you can find your own way to play the game. You need to have a certain level of creativity and find your own option D. My option D is usually to win immunity, but of the most basic options you can go for, and each round of the game and each decision you could possibly have, a lot of the best Survivor players in this community find their own option D every single round of the game. That's what makes them such good players. A lot of people don't really understand why Peppet won a lot of games when he played. A lot of people don't understand what makes Peppet good, and that's because he was able to find his own option D, which would usually be, somewhat unrepeatable by anybody else. Peppet could leave his computer and go make avocado toast during the middle of a challenge, and he's not going to go home, despite the fact that he threw the fucking challenge. He's not going to go home because he's Peppet, and he's like, oh, very funny, I go make avocado toast, ho ho ho. Peppet has managed to make people work with him just because he's fucking hot. Peppet, other people can't get past Final Four because they're too much of a threat. Peppet will go to the Final Four, go up to other people in the game and say, listen, it is your destiny to bring me to the Final Three so that the mighty King Peppet can reclaim his throne and clown on the haters. Peppet can say some stupid bullshit like that, which nobody would ever listen if anybody else said it, but because it's Peppet, they'll throw the fucking game to him. And these are good players. These are competitive players. But Peppet can fucking miss them into thinking, yes, I must serve Lord Peppet. That's how good of he is as a fucking player. It's so fucking amazing. Other people, Vision, I'm gonna glaze my boy Vision. Anything that you think Vision is going to do, Vision is going to do the exact fucking opposite. You can give him these optimal plays of, hey, Vision, I think you should try and do a 3-2-1 this round. I think that would be pretty good. Hey, Vision, I think you should make an alliance with so-and-so. No, Vision's just going to make some bullshit up, say that someone completely random is running the game, and convince a whole new group of people that you never would have expected to vote together. Vision is good at Survivor, not because he does the expected good play, it's because he never does the expected play, which means that some rounds he's actively sabotaging his game. But you know what I say? Every setback is an opportunity, and every opportunity is a setback, or vice versa. I forget. Vision is sort of the epitome of that. Even some players, like Sam K, he can look at the options on the board and decide every single round of the game that his best option is to rat like a bitch and to throw his allies under the... Okay, I'm kidding, Sam. I'm kidding, Sam. I'm very sorry. I had to put that in there because I know Xsync is listening to this, and I want him to laugh. Another thing that my philosophy sort of enables for is, I believe, jury mindfulness. And that goes into what I talked about earlier, where people don't really ask questions based off of, oh, what were your tactics this game? What was your strategy? What moves did you make? What counterplay did you avoid? What counterplay did you have? And what counterplay did you resist? I want these questions to be asked because they're interesting to talk about. It's way more interesting to ask than, hey, what members of the jury do you think are like real Survivor players? Or, hey, what animal would you say you are? A lot of people don't ask good questions at FTC because they don't give a shit, or they don't know what good questions are. And I think that these questions are the nice questions to ask. I believe that my playstyle selection and my philosophy for that is good because it is specific in the sense that you're able to fine-tune exactly how you play the game, and it's scientific because you're able to see what went wrong and adjust for that in future games. And I think this promotes a fun metagame because it allows to do what I mentioned earlier, where you change the metagame to how you like it. If the metagame of Survivor does not enable a certain strategy or a way to play the game that you think is correct or you think is cool, you should be able to move the metagame in that direction by proving people wrong. And I think that that is what makes, the movers and shakers the best players. That is what makes them the best players. And I think this philosophy sort of allows that. And I don't think that anybody should have the same philosophy as me. The same way, I don't think anybody should play the same as me. Anybody that tries to do something the way, play the game the way somebody else does, will just end up as a worse version of them. Everybody should try and find their own philosophy the same way they try and find their own play style. I just showed you mine so that uh, you are able to understand how I think about the game so that you can think about the game in hopefully a more interesting and different manner than you currently do. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you. Tell me what you think, and I hope that we can have an engaging discussion in my server. And Happy New Year's, everybody. I hope that 2025 will have a year full of good games, good discussions, and hopefully a lot more wins than I did in this past year. I'd like to win more than one. So please throw to me, like Peppet. Bye-bye. I'm going to have to go edit this video now.